So recently, Ilia Topuria versus Charles Olivera was announced as the main event for UFC 317, which is International Fight Weekend. I cannot believe how many people out there actually believe that this is some sort of, this is some sort of 50-50 war here between Ilia Topuria and Charles Olivera, because let me tell you right now, this fight will not be close whatsoever. Ilia Topuria is way too sharp. He's way too calculated. And to be quite honest with you, Charles Olivera is just way too hittable, man. And if you actually watch how both guys fight, I believe that this is a complete nightmare of a matchup for Charles Olivera, and I think it's going to show very quick in this matchup. So let's get into this and break this down, because I actually think that this is a horrible fight for Charles Olivera. And look, I know that people are going to say, well, Ilia Topuria is this little fella coming up to 155. In case you need a reminder, this guy has fought at 155 pounds before, and he arguably had his most devastating knockout of his career, where he completely flatlined and annihilated JakeGerber. And when you watch Charles fight, is this guy not one of the most defensively irresponsible fighters that we have in the lightweight division right now? I know that he's a super dangerous finisher. This guy's been dropped by Michael Chandler. He's been dropped by Dustin Poirier. He's been dropped by Justin Gaethje. He was dropped by Islam Makhachev before he got submitted. What makes you think that he's not going to get dropped by Ilia Topuria? And if you're getting hit by what I believe is the most devastating pound-for-pound puncher in the sport right now, I know he's in a lighter weight class, what do you think is going to happen to Charles Olivera? You think that he's just going to get rocked by Ilia and Charles will shake off the cobwebs and he'll come back? That ain't happening, man. That ain't happening. And if you watch how Charles Olivera fights, he likes to be aggressive. He likes to move forward. And Ilia doesn't give a lot of openings. He's very precise. He makes his reads very, very quickly. He has that boxer's-like approach to where he's not going to take a ton of unnecessary risks early in the fight. And that's just what we see from Ilia Topuria, man. The dude's an absolute savage in there. And his shot selection and his accuracy are second to none. Right, and we see how Charles just kind of recklessly moves forward. He's got that good high guard, that Thai style, to where he's super aggressive because he's not worried about being taken down, because obviously he has a super dangerous submission game. But Ilia Topuria is not that reckless, right? I know at times he swings these big, looping shots, but there's a lot of technique behind them. And when this guy generates this power with the torque that he gets when he throws these shots, it is absolutely devastating. So if you think that he's just going to eat one of these big Topuria bombs like he's eating these other shots, you're out of your mind, man. You're out of your mind. And, Ilia waits for you to make mistakes. Charles Olivera doesn't open up a ton to where he makes a lot of mistakes. But if Ilia hits you clean, man, it's going to be a serious problem. And Ilia is very, very efficient with his strikes. Right, so I feel like in this fight, people are just like, Ilia's going to make a mistake and Oliveira's going to capitalize, because we saw JakeGerber land that snappy head kick to where he perfectly timed an overhand right that Ilia Topuria was throwing. He was able to drop him with that, but outside of that, what are you banking on that to drop this guy? Is that what you're banking on to hurt Ilia Topuria? His performance against Volkanovski showed that, he doesn't miss when it matters. You saw against, Max Holloway, went out there, attacked his lead leg, marched him down, and as the fight starts to play out, that is truly where you see Ilia Topuria growing confidence. So what makes you think that he's not going to go out there and do the same thing to Charles, right? And grappling, it's not a safety net here, right? People are going to throw in the argument, oh man, Ilia Topuria, he can't grapple. What happens when Charles Olivera gets a hold of him? Michael Chandler survived with Charles Olivera on the ground, went 25 minutes with him recently, and was really in no danger. Yeah, Charles was on his back, but he's not submitting Michael Chandler, and I know Chandler has pretty decent grappling. What makes you think he's submitting Ilia? Ilia is a better MMA grappler than Michael Chandler. So if he's not submitting Chandler, how's he submitting Ilia Topuria? Right before getting to the UFC, that was Ilia's style, right? He would take guys down, submit them. He was a grappling-based fighter, to where now his boxing's gotten so good and his striking is super technical that's his bread and butter at this point, but he has the grappling in his back pocket. So, Charles likes the chaos. He likes to move forward. He likes to get into these firefights, and, he loves to get hit, because that is what brings out this, this psychotic type of Charles Olivera. When he gets hit and kind of tastes his own blood, he tends to bite down, move forward, and become a very dangerous fighter. But Ilia avoids that. Ilia Topuria avoids that, and Ilia's jiu-jitsu game is incredibly underrated. It's not as good as Charles Olivera's, but in terms of the overall wrestling, I think, Charles has made some good improvements, but isn't Ilia right there, if not better? when it comes to the wrestling. I know that Charles is the established 55er at this point in his career, so maybe he has a little bit of a size advantage. We know he's going to be taller, but in terms of stature, I think Ilia Topuria is right there with him. And Ilia Topuria is not an easy guy to submit. When have we seen it? When have we seen it? He went in there and torched Bryce Mitchell. I know Bryce Mitchell, he's kind of shown that he's not super elite in the weight class, but he's got good submissions. It was no problem for Ilia Topuria. And I'm not comparing Mitchell to Oliveira because we all know Charles is way better. I'm just saying, when is it easy to submit Ilia Topuria? People act like Charles is just going to move forward. He's going to take him down and he's going to really impose his, size advantage here on him. It ain't happening, man. It ain't happening. And as the fight plays out, we saw that against Michael Chandler, that Charles, it's the same thing over and over again with this guy. He moves forward. Yeah, he can, take your back and, of course, submit you. And if Ilia does end up in that position, of course that he is in danger. But we see that as the fight plays out, Ilia gets better. And I know Charles Olivera has been in numerous, big fights, man. But Ilia Topuria, he is a prolific style of finisher. He will slowly take his time. He will build his reads. And as the fight goes, he gets even better. I feel like that's something that people are missing, to where in the Volkanovski fight, in the first round, beating up the lead leg, gathering data, getting into that second round to where he crushed the space, backed him up against the fence, and was able to knock him out and get him out of there. Look at what happened against Max Holloway, right? It was the same thing. Topuria knew that Holloway was going to be fast. He's like, I got to chop at that, the calf, slow him down, march him down, and eventually I will find my shots and find my timing. And another big thing to factor into this, man, the mental game of Ilia Topuria. Ilia is an ice cold dude, man. He's focused and he is pressure proof, right? This guy has been in 2 massive fights against Volkanovski, against Max Holloway. He's KO'd 2 of the absolute legends in the 145-pound division. And people act like, Charles, you've seen when he gets put in tough situations, it's been better since he's been at 155 pounds. What's going to happen when he gets hit by a clean power puncher like Ilia Topuria? Those are where some of the questions are going to come in my opinion. But Charles Olivera, no question about it. He's incredibly dangerous. He has power. I think he's going to try to utilize knees in this fight because Ilia is very low at that boxing stance. If he can throw those head kicks, those front kicks to keep Ilia off of him, of course Charles Olivera could go out there and find a way to win this fight. I think he's outgunned, man. I think Ilia is patient, he's methodical, and I think that he is an ice-cold killer that is super tactical in everything he does. I think that the body shots, the body shots to the body, those big hooks upstairs, I think one of those is going to land and absolutely shut Charles Oliveira's lights out at International Fight Week. And like I said, Oliveira, he's got very good Muay Thai skills. He's light on that lead leg. He can get that lead leg out of the way because that's been a big weapon for Ilia, right? Attacking the base, making you a stationary target to where you can't move as much, to where he can back you up against the fence, let those combinations go, because that is when Ilia is at his best. But I truly believe, yes, Charles Olivera is a legend. He's getting older in his career. He's been dropped in numerous fights. If he cannot get this fight to the floor, unless he lands some sort of head kick and times Ilia well, or times a knee when Ilia is closing the distance, I believe Ilia beats the shit out of Charles Olivera at UFC 317.